I'm David Lombardo, and this is WCNY's The Capitol Press Room, and we're joined in the studio by Amanda Higgs, a fisheries biologist with the State Department of Environmental Conservation's Division of Marine Resources, and with Cornell University. And they're here to talk with us about preservation and restoration of the Atlantic and Shortnose sturgeon fish in the Hudson River. Thanks for joining us, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
So for starters, for the uninitiated, like myself, can you describe the Atlantic and Shortnose sturgeon, as well as sort of their history in the Hudson River?
Yeah, so sturgeons are the most endangered group of fishes in the world. So all around the world, sturgeon populations aren't doing very well. But in the Hudson, we have pretty good populations for both Atlantic and Shortnose. The Shortnose population in the Hudson is the largest sturgeon population in the world. We just did a population estimate. And there's about 70,000 shortnose. So shortnose live in the Hudson their entire year, their entire life. They never leave. So they migrate up and down the Hudson. They use the whole thing from New York Harbor all the way up to the dam at Troy. Atlantic sturgeon are a more migratory fish. They use the Hudson to spawn, but also do these large coastal migrations all along the coast from Florida all the way up to Maine in Canada. So they have a little bit different life histories, but they're both here in the Hudson. There's 3 species of sturgeon that lives in New York. We have 2 of them in the Hudson.
And in terms of the fluctuations in population, is that a result of changes to the environment that have impacted their numbers, or is it the result of more direct human behavior like fishing?
So Atlantic sturgeon had a very large populations in the late 1800s. Fishing over harvest was the reason that the population went very, very low. And in 1996, the fishery in the Hudson closed. So that protection is now in place. And they're both on the endangered species list. So that creates another kind of layer of protection as well. So our stock, like our population for Atlantic sturgeon, is only about 1,000-ish fish. We did an estimate in 2014. It was 500 fish that were in the Hudson in 2014. So all of the work that I'm talking about is all done with lots of partners. So we partner very heavily with USGS, Delaware State University, University of Delaware. So we all work together to get a lot of these projects done. New York could never do any of this on its own.
Well, what do some of the preservation efforts look like? Because I have to imagine it's more complicated than simply putting up a sign that says, do not fish the sturgeon and do not, catch the sturgeon to mount them on your wall, please.
So a lot of the research that we're doing is help learning about fish in the river. So we implant these tags.
Okay.
It's an acoustic tag. So we put it surgically implanted in the belly of the fish.
So you have to catch the fish first?
We have to catch it, right? And then we implant it, and the tag's good for 10 years. So we get 10 years of data from a fish. So we learn where in the Hudson it spends a lot of its time, how long they stay, when they come into the river, when they leave. And then we can learn all along the coast where they're moving. So other researchers like New York have arrays have these receivers. So this is like a fish detection equipment.
That is not a water bottle like I originally thought.
It is not. It is not. So we kind of equate this to like Easy Pass, right? So this is Easy Pass for sturgeon. We have an array that we maintain with USGS and Delaware State in the Hudson of about 80 of these.
And for listeners who can't see this looks like a large black water bottle, but now that I see various holes around it, I think it would not be an effective water bottle.
No. So there's a battery and a whole, computer inside. It detects a fish as it swims by. It gets the unique code of the tag, date and time. And we have these from New York Harbor all the way up to the dam at Troy. So we cover the whole river. And we're able to learn a lot about this kind of more fine-scale movement of where they're using these areas and what important areas the fish need to spawn and spend their time in the Hudson.
Has it prompted any immediate responses? Do you ever notice things in the data that are concerning and then get out somewhere and see, maybe something is obstructing the Hudson River here. Maybe somebody's actually trying to catch fish right here. I mean, how do you, if at all, do you use this data in a practical day-to-day way?
So I help put these out and I help tag the fish. There's someone that's way more savvy with databases because there's, 300 million detections, some ridiculous amount of detections in this database that we have.
Okay.
So people that tag fish along the coast use the Hudson. So it's a conglomeration of all of these detection data from fish that have been tagged in Delaware and now are in the Hudson River. So all working together, we're learning about some of the stuff that was published previously on sturgeon is not really holding true. So we think Atlantic sturgeon move in now, this time of year, spend until July and leave. But Shannon White at USGS is finding that fish also come in June, end of June, beginning of July, and stay all the way through the winter, which we never knew happened before.
Well, is there reason to believe that just wasn't the case before, and this represents a new tendency,
finding.
given something like changes to the water temperature or other man-made impacts?
That could be it, but my guess is like the technology. We just didn't have the technology before to learn these things, and now we have the opportunities and a long data set. So we have 10 years of data from these receivers. So for a really long-lived fish, which sturgeon do live really long, 10 years is kind of just the start of when you would want to look at the data. So we have this very long running array that allows us to get the data, and then now we have someone to start looking at it. So we're finding things that we didn't know before, and now we can now protect the fish. So we work very closely with our habitat team. So we have biologists that look at permitting, and we give this data to them so they can protect the river and the habitats. So, we give them all of the data and all of the science behind what they need to make those determinations of when people can dredge in the river, when people can, build a dock or whatever they need. And they're the ones that actually are the heroes behind the scenes that make those things happen. So they do get protected.
Well, from a biologist perspective, why is it important to take these steps to not just protect the sturgeon, but to give them a chance to maybe rebuild their numbers? What is the benefit if, say, we're not trying to eat them, for example?
So from an ecological standpoint, they're a fish that use the Hudson. So to grow their numbers, and they used to have very, very large population numbers, and now they don't. So we know that at some point the Hudson was able to sustain a very large population, and then we came in and took a lot of them away, and now the populations are very low. I mean, they're by law, New York is supposed to protect them because they're endangered. But
is there something about them that, is it good to have a thriving ecosystem of fish and that helps everything else? Or are there other benefits? Because I imagine at some point somebody said, well, we need to pass this law because there's a reason to preserve the sturgeon, or maybe it's just because we want to preserve biodiversity, I guess.
Right, and I think that it's the biodiversity part, but they also have been around on this planet for 250 million years. So they swam when the dinosaurs were on the planet, and they look very similar than they did 200 million years ago. Like, they haven't changed what they look like now than when they look at 200 million years ago. So, I mean, for nothing else, keeping things that we've had for a really long time, I think makes sense as well.
That's what I tell people when they try to push me out of this job. Don't make me go. What about this other, I'm going to call it toy because I don't know what the heck it is, but what are you holding in your hand right now? It looks like a water diviner to me.
Yeah. So this is a pit tag reader. So passive integrated transponder is what the tag. So this is what is in this container here, our pit tags. They're the exact same thing you put in your dog or cat, a microchip is what we call it, right? So it's just this little grain of rice.
Yeah.
So you
don't cook that.
Inject that in the fish, and there's no battery, so it lasts forever as long as it stays in the fish.
Sure.
And then what you do is when you catch all the fish, you turn this on, you scan the whole body of the fish, and you can see if it's been tagged before.
And do you go about naming all the fish too?
So the ones that get acoustic tags, we did name them for a while. They were named after Seinfeld characters because it was in the 2010s.
Still a decade plus after the show had been off the air.
Exactly, but I mean it's a pretty great show. So
do you have a Newman, for example?
We did.
Oh, yeah. Is there no longer a Newman?
Well, no. So I'm sure, hopefully the fish is still alive. But the
thank
tag,
God! You scared me, Amanda.
No. Sorry. The tag is no longer working.
Okay, so going off the beaten path, do you have a J. Peterman?
We did.
Do you have a Soup Nazi?
We did. Yeah.
Wow. So you guys have covered a lot of your bases.
We did. Obviously, I don't think any of the technicians that work now probably even know the show.
Sure.
But it was the current people that were there at that time were big Seinfeld fans.
What's the most obscure Seinfeld character name that you remember using?
I don't remember. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. I don't remember.
Well, do you assume, for example, George Costanza's parents are both named?
I don't think we had his parents.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you guys start this project again, I'm
I'll
happy
contact you.
to lend my expertise into this work.
Yeah.
Well, lastly, you have a Tupperware container that looks like it has fossils, but maybe it's something else. What did you bring?
See, these are sturgeon scoots. So sturgeon
Scoots? Are we allowed to say that on the air, Amanda?
Scoots, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that? And feel free to hold it to your left a little
species
bit.
of sturgeon have five rows of bony scoots.
Okay.
So they have one.
You keep saying scoots like I know what that means.
On the dorsal surface and then all around. And so these are embedded in their skin.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a cartilaginous skeleton.
Sure.
And then bone on the outside. So these are bone, basically. It's a bony plate that is embedded, and there's lots of them all throughout the fish. So you can see they're different sizes and shapes depending on where they are. I think this one is like near their head.
How big of a sturgeon would something like that size come from?
So I think they all came off different fish, but I think this one came off a fish that was like close to 8 feet long.
Okay.
And it had gotten hit by a vessel in the Hudson River.
Hopefully it wasn't Kramer.
Floated up on shore, and we went and took some scoots from it.
And is that for like a defensive purpose, or is it just they're a structure that has their hard parts on the outside?
It's just how they're made.
Okay.
Yep. So going back to this,
Sure.
So we caught some fish. We were up here a couple weeks ago. We caught 3 fish that had been tagged before, all shortnose, and 2 of them had been tagged in the 1990s.
Back in the heyday of Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly. 1996 and 1997 by a researcher at Cornell.
Sure.
The fish only grew 83. One of them only grew 83 millimeters since we had caught it 30 years ago.
Is that a lot? I mean, I've stopped growing in the last 20 years, so I don't know.
Right. So I don't think we know a lot about age and growth of sturgeon for sure. We don't know if they like reach a max like we do and stop growing, or they continue to grow. But if you think about a fish that's 800 millimeters and they only grow 83 millimeters every 30 years, I think we're really underestimating the size and age of fish. I think they could be, fish that are swimming around the Hudson now could have been born in the 1940s. Probably much older than most of the people might be listening to this show.
Older than Michael Richards, even.
Yeah.
What do you see as the long-term goals here? I mean, what do you hope to accomplish? Is it about replenishing the fish to its ranks of, say, 100-plus years ago? Is it just about information? What do you hope to accomplish? What's the legacy you hope to leave for these fish that are going to be around, long after you and I are dead, potentially?
So I think since we have 2 of the larger populations along the coast, I think it affords us lots of opportunities to build tools that could be used in other sturgeon populations along the coast. So if we learn things here, they can get implemented in other places. So I think using our populations as kind of the developer of the next tool to, population estimation, learning more about movement or areas that they need, habitats that they need for, successful spawning or, rearing of young, or using all of our information that we gather here to give to other people.
Well, we've been speaking with Amanda Higgs. They're a fisheries biologist with the State Department of Environmental Conservation's Division of Marine Resources, as well as with Cornell University. Amanda, thank you for speaking with us and doing the science lesson. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Support for the Capitol Press Room comes from O'Donnell and Associates, a public affairs firm providing strategic guidance to businesses and nonprofits on navigating policy and regulatory issues. More information is available at o'donnellsolutions.com.